Good morning, everyone. Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on match day. Not too long now to Arsenal get underway against Liverpool at Emirates Stadium this evening. I will be there as always, so please do join me for that. I'll be trying to do the usual before and after the game, to do my live stream discussing the team news, broadcasting the warm-ups, that sort of thing. And then hopefully if I get time after the match, I'll try and do a player ratings video as well. If not, I definitely will tomorrow morning, where I'll look over the game more in depth. So ahead of that game, I just wanted to go over a couple of things that are in the news at the moment. Also look at the very latest team news ahead of that game. I did do a video yesterday doing my predicted 11, but we've heard since then that Luiz is out of the match with a knee injury. So I thought I'd do another predicted 11, taking that into account this morning and discussing the latest team news. But before that, there are a few little bits that I wanted to talk about. Some interesting stuff from Mikel Arteta that went live at 10:30 last night. It was from his press conference on Thursday. As always, a lot of it is held over and embargoed for the newspaper deadline, so he couldn't talk about it or publish it until 10:30 p.m. on Friday night. And there's quite a little bit of interesting stuff in there. He talks about the support he hopes to get from Stan Kroenke, or has been getting from Stan Kroenke ahead of the summer transfer window. Talks more about Aubameyang's form. That's a big topic of discussion for tonight's game, whether or not the captain will start, and also a little bit about Martin Odegaard as well. So let's start with Stan Kroenke and the summer Arsenal plans, shall we? He was asked, Mikel, what is the plan for this summer? Are you going to be relying on Stan Kroenke dipping his hand into his own pocket to give you funds to get the transfers that you want? Or is it going to be about selling players to generate income? Or is it all going to be dependent on where you finish this season and if you get in Europe or not? What is the plan? And this is what he had to say. He said, look, I think all three of those factors are really relevant, but I wouldn't isolate one of them because we know what we want to do. We've got a plan that we'll put together, and we know there are certain scenarios that can vary, we can't really control, and they'll be dependent on things today that we can't really determine. But the plan is to go ahead with what we want, and I know the owners, fully agree with that, and they've been really supportive with us. I think when you look at what he's got to say, it's quite similar to what he said sort of this time last year, really, with what money was going to be available. Was it going to be dependent on where they finished in Europe? Was it going to be dependent on the owner? It was all kind of and in the end it being a bit of a mixed bag. I think Arsenal qualifying for Europe did help them. It's certainly, they spent quite a lot of money with Gabriel and Thomas Partey, but a lot of that as well was down to Stan Kroenke not dipping his own hand into his pocket, because look, we know Stan Kroenke doesn't do that, but manoeuvring money around and taking certain debts and things like that, and basically finding the money from within the club to go out and get a couple of the transfers that they really, really wanted. And I think it's going to be similar case this summer. Obviously, it will be very, very helpful if Arsenal win the Europa League, end up qualifying for the Champions League, and then bring in all the riches that brings. Then we're going to see a completely different summer when it comes to the transfer window. And when Mikel talks about certain scenarios, that's what he's getting at there. Obviously, in terms of what the owner can do, I think they'll probably already be aware of that. The talks would have been going on. They'll know kind of what support Stan Kroenke is going to be able to give for the transfer market. But when he talks about different scenarios, that's where you look at where are they going to finish. Are they going to be out of the European places altogether? Are they going to sneak into the Europa League through the Premier League top sort of 6 finish? Or are they going to win the Europa League this season and get themselves back into the Champions League? And so you've got kind of scenario 3 or scenario 1, whatever you want to call it, which is the best case scenario where there's going to be plenty of money available, or certainly a decent amount of money available. Would it be scenario 2, Europa League, which will be average money available, or would it be worst case scenario, no Europe at all, no money really available other than what you're going to do with selling players and maybe with a little bit of help from Stan Kroenke? So I think that's what Mikel is getting at there. But obviously, like he says, depending on things today that we can't really determine, it's all a case of waiting and seeing how this season unfolds. But there's no doubt that Mikel Arteta wants to do a fair bit of business in the summer transfer, both in terms of outgoings with players he wants to get off the books, continue with that, and also in terms of incomings to bring in the players that he really wants, to have the team that he really wants, which he hasn't certainly got at this point. Right, let's talk about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, shall we? We've talked about him a lot on these videos, but some good, fresh comments from Mikel about Aubameyang. Now, is he going to start today? I'm not so sure. I've got a feeling Lacazette might start as central striker, and we could see Aubameyang on the bench. I'll get to that later in my predicted 11. But Mikel has been talking quite a bit about Aubameyang's form, and he says, look, we've talked for months about the ratio of goals we need him to score to give us the best possible chance of being at the top. It has not been what it has been in recent years, and it's a factor that is contributed by a lot of things that the team has to do on the pitch. It is not just his thing, but obviously we need Odegaard in different form in the next games to give us our best chance to finish where we want to finish this season. That is clear. I think we all know that. Look, if Aubameyang's fit and firing and scoring goals, Arsenal are a much better team and they've got a much better chance of winning games. Even when he's not scoring goals, yes, they'll score a few. They've shown that recently. Lacazette started chipping in with goals, players like that. But Arsenal aren't going to win as many games if Aubameyang's not scoring. When Aubameyang's bang on it, Arsenal tend to win. We saw that at the end of last season with that fantastic run that led Arsenal to the FA Cup. We've seen it even since Christmas when he started scoring in games again. Arsenal tended to go on and win those games because their star man is banging form. It is a problem for Arsenal. It has been a problem all season. They need to get Odegaard firing. I thought he was just beginning to hit that patch when he scored 9 in his last 14. Most strikers will be delighted with a strike rate like that, but we know Odegaard can do more, and he certainly can do more. And he's missed some big chances recently. And that game against West Ham before the international break was a really, really disappointing performance from him. Albeit he was started bizarrely out on the right by Mikel Arteta. I still don't understand that decision. By the time he got moved over to the left, perhaps his head had already gone, his confidence was already shot, and he couldn't do much in that match. A lot of the discussion about Odegaard is also about his form has dropped off since he signed that big mega contract at the start of the season. That contract was signed after the Fulham game. Up to that point, he'd scored against Liverpool in the Community Shield, scored against Fulham on the opening weekend of the season. Then he signed his contract a few days later, and then he went on that big barren patch that he hasn't really recovered from, although, as I said, he has got, since the turn of the year, his goal scoring has improved. Mikel was asked of that, are the two things linked, the contract and the drop-off of form? And he says, it is easy to connect things like that, but I am not suspicious of that. I've seen and we've had many conversations about what we wanted to do from last year's point of view to his near future in the next 2 years, and he was very ambitious with that. To maintain that level is really complicated, but he's trying his best, he's trying hard, and that is what he is aiming to do. I don't think there's any... I hate the link between the new contract and Aubameyang's loss of form. I just don't believe that at all. I just think he's having a difficult season. When Arsenal weren't creating chances, he wasn't scoring goals. It's as simple as that. Since Arsenal have improved since Christmas and started to create chances, he is scoring goals. Yes, he may not be scoring quite at the rate that he was, but as I said, 9 goals in 14 games. A lot of strikers would kill for a strike rate like that. It's not bad at all, and that's because he's getting more chances, and he was also missing chances. And although it's frustrating, at least he's missing them. In that first half of the season, when a lot of people were having a go at him, he wasn't even missing chances because he just wasn't getting them at all. Arsenal weren't creating anything. It was all very slow. There was no space behind. Teams were sitting deep, killing the space. Aubameyang had nothing to work with. He was feeding off scrap week after week. So it's no surprise he wasn't scoring goals. We're seeing a change in that now. Like I said, the goals are starting to come in. He's getting more chances. Yes, he's missing some of them, but at least he's getting the chances. And I'm convinced that the goals will continue to come. Whether he'll start today, that's another thing. And like I said, I will get to that at the end of this video when I do my predicted 11. But I absolutely agree here with Mikel. When he says he's not suspicious that the drop-off of form is linked to the big new contract he signed, I absolutely agree with him with that. I don't think there is an issue there of Aubameyang down in tools. Yes, a lot of people throw the whole Mesut Ozil situation towards him. I don't even think Ozil down tools or anything like that when he signed his new contract. I just don't. I just think Ozil's performances started to dip off, and he couldn't get them back. But I don't see that with Odegaard. I still see the same sort of player who's just not in the best of run of form at the moment. So I don't really compare it to the whole Ozil situation either. Right, let's talk about Martin Odegaard, shall we? Who surely play at number 10 today, especially with doubts over Emil Smith-Rowe. What a big impact he has made at Arsenal. He was speaking once again about his future during the international break. He said again and reiterated his desire now is just to have some stability in his career for pretty much the first time since he made that big move to Madrid as a teenager all those years ago. He said to, I think he was talking to the Norwegian press, he said, look, I just want stability and development. He certainly going to get stability if he stays at Arsenal, that's for sure. Whether that can happen, we'll have to wait and see till the summer. But Mikel was asked about it and was asked if he thought that Odegaard's comments during the international break were a strong hint that he wanted to remain at Emirates Stadium, certainly for next season, but possibly on a permanent basis as well. Mikel said, "I don't know. I don't like to read between the lines. I speak with him every day. I see his face, his body language, and he seems to be really happy here. Our contract with him is until the end of the season, but what we have to try to do is make him perform, develop and be as happy as he can be. The team is going to be reflecting that in better performances, better results, and at the end of the season, we'll see where we are and we will have a discussion." Now, obviously, Arsenal do not have a clause with Real Madrid to turn that loan move permanent in the summer. That wasn't something Real wanted to entertain when they were doing the deal with Arsenal in January. What was agreed was that the two clubs would sit down and discuss the situation further at the end of the season, along with Martin Odegaard, obviously. I've said before in these videos, I think it's going to be hard for Arsenal to turn this move permanent. I think they'll certainly try, but whether they can afford it, whether Real will agree to let him go, whether other clubs won't come in and outbid Arsenal, there's so many different things that could come into the equation when it comes to Martin Odegaard's future. I think Arsenal, possibly his best case scenario, might be getting him back on loan for another season. Next season, Real might be open to that, especially if Zinedine Zidane stays, and then they'll make a decision on him again the following season. Potentially Zidane will go, and that might open up more opportunities for Odegaard at the Bernabeu. So I think Arsenal's best case scenario will probably be another season-long loan, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe Stan will for once dip his hand into his own pocket, find £50 million in there somewhere, and make a deal happen with Real Madrid, which any ambitious owner probably should do, because I think we can all see the quality of Martin Odegaard and what he can bring and what age he is. He'll have huge sell-on value, but this is Stan Kroenke, unfortunately, we are talking about. And previous history suggests he doesn't always do what he should do when it comes to being ambitious in the transfer market. But let's wait and see, shall we, Arsenal fans? Right, let's have a little look ahead now to tonight's game, shall we? And there is team news that's come out from Arsenal after training yesterday. David Luiz is out with a knee injury. Now, I think David Luiz was certainly going to start this game, so that is a blow for Mikel Arteta's plans, losing such an influential centre-back with a knee injury. We don't know too much more about Luiz. He has been training this week, but he hasn't been able to shake off this injury. He has been to see a specialist to try and find out exactly what's going on, and Arsenal will be taking a look at some scans, things like that, to see if they can find out what's going on with David Luiz. But he is out of this game tonight against Liverpool, and Granit Xhaka is a doubt. He was ill yesterday and he missed training. Now, obviously, Granit Xhaka is obviously a very, very important player for Mikel Arteta, an absolute nailed-on starter in the central midfield alongside Thomas Partey. So Arsenal will be doing all they can and give Xhaka all the time he needs to prove he can feature in this one. We don't know how bad the illness is. Hopefully he was just feeling a little bit upset in terms of his stomach or something like that, and he will be able to feature. Because I know a lot of you don't really like Granit Xhaka, but let's face it, he is very important to this Arsenal team, and Mikel Arteta absolutely trusts him. And if he playing against a side like Liverpool, you want your best players playing, and I think Mikel Arteta will be very disappointed if Granit Xhaka doesn't make it in time for tonight's game. So they're the big two bits of fresh news. Good news was that Saka trained yesterday. Obviously, we've had Bukayo has been working at Arsenal for the last 2 weeks on this hamstring injury that made him drop out of the England squad. He hasn't been training until yesterday, and he did return, trained with the group, so we could well be seeing Bukayo Saka, which is a big, big boost tonight. I thought that Arsenal would probably err on the side of caution, but the fact he's training and he's in full training, if he's proven his fitness, then I think we all know what Mikel Arteta tends to do when Bukayo Saka is available, and that is start him. So now my opinion has pretty much changed on that, and if Saka is fit and has come through training fully unscathed, and Mikel thinks he'll be all right, then I wouldn't be surprised to see Bukayo Saka in the starting 11 tonight against Liverpool. There was no sign of Emil Smith-Rowe in training. He's got that hip problem that forced him to miss England's final game during the under 21s Euros during the international break. So it looks like we'll be without Emil Smith-Rowe tonight, which is a shame for him and a shame for Mikel Arteta. Okay, so let's go through my predicted 11 now. I did do one of these yesterday, but given what we've heard from Arsenal in terms of the injury to David Luiz and the doubt to Granit Xhaka and the return to training of Bukayo Saka, I thought I'd better pop on and do a fresher update of my predicted 11. So this is what I'm expecting to see from Arsenal, from Mikel Arteta. This isn't based on any information, remember, that I've got from Arsenal. This isn't what I want to see. This is just the 11 that I'm expecting Mikel to go from the latest injury news that we have with the players who it looks like could be available. I'm going to go with Bernd Leno in goal, obviously. I'm going to go with Hector Bellerin at right back instead of Cedric Suarez. I wouldn't be surprised now Luiz is out to see Rob Holding come back in and play on the right side of the centre-back with Gabriel as a left-sided centre-back. Obviously, you have Pablo Mari as the option as well. I'm not sure if he's going to go Gabriel and Mari, obviously both very much left-sided centre-backs. So I wouldn't be surprised because of that we'll see Rob Holding on the right-hand side. Tierney on the left, obviously. Then I'm going to say Granit Xhaka will be okay, and Xhaka and Partey as a central midfield partnership. Bukayo Saka, like I said, if he's fit and he's come through training, I'm expecting Mikel to play him. He'll go on the right. Odegaard as central as a number 10. I'm going to say Nicolas Pepe on the left. Obviously, there are other options. It could be Willian. It could even be Aubameyang. But I'm certainly hoping he's going to give Nicolas Pepe a start because I think Pepe deserves that, and I'd much rather see him over there on the left than Aubameyang. So Pepe on the left, and then I'm going to say Alexander Lacazette as the central striker for this one, and Aubameyang may well have to make do with a place on the bench. And I think Lacazette certainly warrants his starting spot given his performance against West Ham before the international break and against Spurs as well. Before that, he's playing very, very well, is Lacazette. So one more time, I'll run through that. Leno, Bellerin, Holding, Gabriel, Tierney, Xhaka, Partey, Saka, Odegaard, Pepe, Lacazette. That is my predicted 11 for tonight's game. 8 p.m. kickoff at the Emirates, Arsenal versus Liverpool. Like I said, I shall be there as always, so please do watch out on this channel for the usual stuff. Pre-match team news, reaction and warm-ups. I'll broadcast that live and then hopefully player ratings after the game as well. Until then, everyone, enjoy your Saturday. Hopefully, fingers crossed, enjoy the game tonight. Speak to you soon.